I think one benefit of a YouTube channel like mine, where I don't just review a phone and then move on and never talk about it again, is the fact that I will periodically check back in and kind of see how a device is holding up. Shockingly, it's hard for me to believe this, but it looks like I unboxed my Pixel 9 Pro Fold on September the 4th. Right now, at time of recording, it is November the 15th. It's been a couple of months in my possession. I do have a dbrand leather skin on here, which will cover part of the device, but not the parts that are relevant. And I think that now, a couple of months later, would be a good time to check in with the hardware of the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. How is this device holding up? I have been daily driving it pretty much that entire time. So it's gotten 2 full months of use. And surprisingly, I think, maybe for some of you, there are some things beginning to happen. Now, I want to make this very clear. This is currently my favorite phone on the market. I think that this is an absolutely outstanding phone. But I do have to be real and have to be honest about everything. And some hardware things are not quite how I would like them to be. So let's take a look at the hardware of the Pixel 9 Pro Fold 2 months later. So like I mentioned, dbrand leather skin on the back of the device, and it is beginning to sort of pick up its leather patina, which will happen more and more over time. You might be able to see that I had a little bit of an issue with the G part of the logo. It actually got snagged on something and it didn't want to stick down, and I initially cut it off, and I've kind of stuck it back on there with the aid of a little bit sort of refreshed the adhesive a little bit, and it seems like it's holding down pretty well. But we're not here to talk about the dbrand leather skin. We're here to talk about the rest of the device. So I'll just say that on the backside, everything seems really, really quite solid. I don't seem to have any noticeable scratches on the camera at all, which is definitely good. And I don't just mean on the glass over the lenses. I mean in general. It looks absolutely pristine. On the side here where my hinge is, it is a very similar situation. I think everything looks really quite good. I struggle to see any issues, any dings, bumps, scratches, anything like that. If we go around the edge of the device, again, it's very, very similar. The material that they went with for the externals of this device seem to all be holding up quite well. For the cover display, I did have a screen protector on it for a good while, but lately, the last maybe couple or few weeks, there's been no screen protector on here, and it seems like it's holding up just fine. It's basically just like a normal phone, so nothing too shocking there. The area where I think that there's actually something to look at is going to be with this inner screen. There's actually a few things that I think are kind of interesting. Unfortunately, a lot of the stuff is going to range from hard to film to impossible to film, and I'm going to do my best. First thing I want you to see is I do have this little spot right there, that little line, which is basically like a little indention. I'll zoom in just a little bit. It's not like a scratch or something. Basically, it looks like something sort of poked the screen and just left a little mark. It's very hard to notice unless you're off axis like this. When the screen's on, it's basically invisible, but it is there. Something else that is even like more so hard to see and impossible to see when the screen is on is right above that. Maybe you can see this, maybe you've seen it already, all up through there and on the other side. All through, I'm basically using my ring light to circle it. If you're looking for it, that's what we're looking for, is what's inside that ring light. There's this like weird looking little pattern. And if you don't know what that is, it's actually from when this device closes. The two sides of the screen are able to touch one another. My best guess would be that over hundreds and hundreds of closings, teeny tiny little specks of whatever, dust, whatever it might be, being stuck in between them. They have made similar marks to that thing, but less severe, all up and down the inside of the screen. The good news here is that when the screen is on, you just absolutely cannot see this stuff unless you do this and you really, really look for it. But it's pretty hard to see without a really bright light hitting it just right. So it's annoying for sure, and it's something that I think they're going to need to address for the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. But it definitely isn't something that I'm like anguishing over. And just to drive that point home, here is the phone without the benefit of my ring light just sort of being on top of it. And I'm going to come into that same area and I'm going to kind of try to move it around with just normal like household lighting. You're not going to be able to see those marks at all. Here we are outside in, obviously some pretty bright lighting. And out here, I can, if I look really closely, very vaguely begin to see those marks. So again, it's not something that's going to impact you a whole heck of a lot, but in certain circumstances, you might be able to notice it. One more thing that I do need to note about the inner screen is actually about the bezel around the device. I'm going to do my best to get this on film, but maybe you can see right around that bezel when the light hits it just right. There's all kinds of tiny little marks. And the original Pixel Fold did the exact same thing. What's weird is that they primarily are on the top and bottom and not so much on the sides. And that makes me wonder, maybe some of you guys out there, or guys and gals, whatever, are physics majors. Is there more pressure applied here maybe than here? Maybe that's where the magnets are. Maybe that's what's holding it closed. I don't know, but I think that my best assumption would be that much like the screen area here, just tiny little fragments of something are being caught there so that when it closes, you wind up making these little tiny marks on the bezel. The next one is something that I don't think is so much an issue as it is something that you may just have noticed, that you may be concerned about, and I do think that this is the correct answer. This came from a conversation with Nation here on Threads, talking about bumps in the crease of the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. Crease hinge screws visible. I had never noticed this before. I did say to Nation here that I have had bumps in the crease of many of my foldables. Some of them come and go. I think sometimes it's debris that's getting in and then working its way to either out or to a different location where it's not under the screen anymore. Sometimes I think it's the brushes inside the device maybe moving around a little bit. Like I said, they've come and they've gone. I actually have a bump in the crease of my OnePlus Open that has been there for, I think at this point, maybe around 5 or 6 months. Nothing has come of it. It has stayed very persistently in the same location. My Pixel 9 Pro Fold does not have any of those sorts of bumps, but I did notice, I got it underneath my kitchen light. I actually noticed this on accident. I was cooking and I was watching a TV show while I was cooking. It was just sort of on my counter. After having this conversation, I guess maybe I was subconsciously looking for this thing. I looked over at it, and in that perfect lighting, I think I noticed these exact hinge screw bumps that this person on Reddit was referring to. And I 100% cannot film this and show it to you, but I did manage to take a photo. Just trust me, this was excruciatingly difficult even to get a photo like this. But if you look very, very closely, you can see maybe a little bit of a bump there, but the two that I want you to pay attention to right there, and then on the opposite side right there. And if you kind of move it and let the light go up and down, you will see on either side with equal spacing these very, very vague, very hard to spot bumps running the entire length of your crease on the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. So this is something that if you've somehow accidentally seen it, I don't think it's anything to panic about. If you see a bump, look and see if on the opposite side there is a corresponding bump, and then look and see if above that or below that there's 2 more and 2 more and 2 more. If that's what you're seeing, you're probably just seeing the screws on the other side of the hinge, and that should not be a problem. There's one more thing I want to quickly point out before we wrap this thing up, and I almost forgot to include it because it really doesn't fit with the rest of the video, but I don't know where else to communicate it to you. If you remember back in my initial review of the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, I talked about how if you were in very low light, so the brightness of the phone was all the way down and you were scrolling, white text would take on this very strange purple hue. So we have a normal phone here to the left, and this is the Pixel 9 Pro Fold to the right. You can see how whenever it's moving, it is super duper purple. I don't know what's going on there or why that was happening, but the good news is with my device, it appears to be fixed. I can no longer recreate this weird purple effect. So that is definitely good to see. Again, I don't know when it was fixed, but it seems like it's fixed. So, all in all, I think that it's kind of a frustrating mixed bag. A lot of the hardware is holding up beautifully. It looks absolutely pristine and brand new. The little indention, the little thing where something clearly poked my screen, that's, I think, user error. That's on me. Something poked the screen, and again, that's on me. But the space where the two screens are clearly touching, that's frustrating. And then all of the tiny little micro scratches along the outside, the bezel of the inner screen, I think the exact same thing is happening where they're coming together. That is also a little bit on the frustrating side. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this device progresses. How does it look in another 2 months or another 6 months or another 2 years? All of that, of course, remains to be seen. I would love to hear from you guys, though. Are you seeing similar things on your Pixel 9 Pro Fold? Let me know in the comments down below. How concerned with some of these things are you personally? I'm not super concerned. It is something I'm going to keep my eye on. I guess worst case scenario is that a couple of years later, those areas where the screens are touching might be a little bit annoying to use in a brighter lit area. Hopefully, it just kind of stays where it is now, but we just won't know until we get there. Guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content like this, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.